Yes, Shelter FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. Haven't done this in a while. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield and Skeeter. He's broken the duck. Shelter's down the guzzle, down the throat over the weekend. Skeeter's back on the beers, and I don't know if he's happy about it or not. How are you, Skeeter?
Yes, hello, Scoey. Yeah, my first drink that I did have was a Shelter.
Very
Shelter on Saturday afternoon.
With respect.
And I just went on from there, and I was pretty dusty yesterday, to be totally honest. Not match fit.
I'll repeat what you said. I said, did you have a big one? No, I didn't have a big one. So what did you do? Well, I had a couple of Shelters, and then I went here, and I had a couple of Shelters and a couple of bourbons, and then I went from there. I went to someone else's house, and I had a few more bourbons, a couple of Shelters, and then I was with Vicky, and then she told me to have a water, and I cracked the shits. I didn't want a water, and then I got taken home, dragged by my ear, and then I had a couple more beers, and I went to sleep. So you didn't just ease your way back in, Skeeter.
You missed out the wine that I had in between that. So, it's a decent hit out. Mind you, you were also out in the bed. And the funny thing last night, because, when the night after you've had a blowout, and I wasn't match fit, as I said, I had a dream, and guess what? You were in it. I swear.
What was...
So the dream was that for some reason, because I was hosting the show called The Game on Channel 7. You were one of the panellists.
Yes.
But you started dropping the F-bomb every 10, 15 seconds because you were hungover.
You sure it was a dream?
And you had sunglasses on, and you're like...
And you were pissed. You're like, look at this.
I said, Scully, mate, you can't keep swearing like this on air. And you just go with the,
get fucked,
I go, mate, they're gonna catch you if you keep dropping the F-bomb live on TV. Anyway, that's the dream that I had last night.
Well, I'm glad I've infiltrated your mindset, Skeeter, even when you're in bed. How good. Let's get into it, mate. We've got a couple of things to get through today. Socials, of course. You can follow us at Shelter FootyCast. You can send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. We do have a couple of emails at the back end of the show to get through. Skeeter, YouTube, BackChat Studios. We were a creator on the rise last week, Skeeter, which means we'll featured across YouTube, across Australia and globally. We were trending. Skeeter? Does that mean anything to you?
No, trending. It means people are having a look.
No, it was good. So, anyway, we're going to get through the Thirsty Camel Clanger of the Week, Skeeter, so make sure you have a think about that because I've got a couple of things up my sleeve, but I'd like you to bring something to the table as well. Don't run out of your favourites. Grab your Shelters at Thirsty Camel. Let's get into some big moments of the round. I think we should start here. Look, Western Australian footy, Fremantle win. Okay, great. That's very good. Neither of us picked it. Of course, we didn't. How did you go on tips this week?
I've got 7 out of 9 from the ones that I put in, the legit ones, yeah.
Well, legit ones. I mean, you picked St Kilda for your roughie of the week, which we will get to.
We're not counting these. They're the roughie of the week.
Well, okay. I guess you can cheat yourself. But the bottom 3 sides, the other Western Australian side, West Coast, the bottom 3 sides this year are bad, are historically bad.
Yeah. Well, whether it's as bad as it's ever been, not sure, but they got beaten, the 3 teams, we talk of Eagles, North Melbourne and Hawthorn, by a combined total of 194 points. 194 points, which is... we've always had bad sides in the comp. I mean, I just did some numbers on it. Going back to 2019, Melbourne and the Gold Coast combined for 8 wins during the season. They were the bottom 2 teams. 2020, a 17-game season, North Melbourne and Adelaide, 3 wins apiece, so 6. In 2021, Collingwood with 6 wins, North Melbourne with 4, so 10 wins between them. Last year, West Coast and North Melbourne had 4 wins between them. The Giants were a little bit better at 6 victories. And so far, look, we're only, 9 rounds in, but North Melbourne, West Coast and Hawthorn a combined tally of 4 victories. Now, that's going to obviously bump up this week with Hawthorn playing West Coast. But it's more the manner of the defeats, and maybe that's because they're fresh in our mind and those other teams got belted by just as much, but out of
those 3, I mean, Hawthorn's the most competitive out of the 3. They've lost 2 games by under a goal.
Yep.
Adelaide and GWS. I don't see West Coast and North Melbourne winning more games for the year. I do. I think Hawthorn can.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Hawthorn's... I only put them in that bracket because...
You'd have them 4 to 6, maybe.
Yeah, I would have thought so. Maybe. Yeah, they're definitely a step above...
North Melbourne and West Coast?
Well, they're going to play each other later this year, so... I mean... But North Melbourne, they were 2 from 2, weren't they?
Yes, yeah. And everyone was saying, look at
Clarko, the genius. And just shows you that the list is just moderate at best.
The round 9 average margin... losing margin was 46. It's the highest since 2018, round 9. Bottom 3 sides are the worst they've ever been. But I think football in general is in a pretty good spot. I know we don't like having bad teams, but I think you said it well. I think we always have bad teams, don't we? Like it's not a people kicking up a stink about the Tasmanian team coming in off the back of having really poor sides. I think we always have poor sides. We've always there's always been one or two that are just shocking. I don't.
Fitzroy going back,
Yeah, but
every
year though,
terrible.
mate. You don't have to go back as far as
the
Fitzroy.
Giants, the Gold Coast, when they first came into the competition, the Giants particularly, it was almost like, well, when you've got the Giants, and don't worry, clubs are lining up thinking, if we've got West Coast and North Melbourne in the back half of the year, I think I was on right. Was it yesterday we were talking on radio about Adelaide having a look at North Melbourne and West Coast?
I do think West Coast improved towards the back end of the year. So if you're going to get West Coast, you want to have them in the next 6 weeks to get a real percentage boost, because I don't see them competitive at the moment. I mean, that was probably their most disappointing loss of the year against Gold Coast.
It's well, you've got a few to compare with, haven't you?
Yeah, correct. One thing before we get on to those games, Jacob Van Rooyen, we didn't get to speak about him because the appeal was Thursday. I think a good thing for football that gets overturned.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll tell you what, Charlie Ballard should get stretched off every week.
He's had
terrific on Friday night.
He's had 10 intercept marks. Again, we're getting into West Coast, Gold Coast territory, but the Van Rooyen, the precedent that would have been set if he had have kept his 2 weeks, we wouldn't have seen a contested marking situation without someone getting reported, in my mind.
No, you're right. It's quite significant. And players now, I mean, there would have been a lot of confusion. I mean, it's hard enough with the tackling. I reckon the tackling, even in the last week or two, watching players
less slinging,
just when they've got them, almost trying to be gentle or at least duty of care is certainly coming into players' minds. Have you noticed that to some degree?
I probably would agree with that, which is an interesting one because I didn't think players were going to be out. Well, some of these ones are incidental. Like I don't think there's many of them that the players getting them 360 and slamming onto the ground. But you're definitely not seeing them anymore. So if you are seeing anyone with a head hitting the ground, it's off the back of incidental momentum, that sort of stuff. Always players will find a way to adjust to the rule, whether it be the stand rule, which we don't talk about anymore at all, do we?
No, not like it's become part and parcel. Mind you, the sling tackle, there are some players that are being accused of maybe even.
I saw a couple. I saw one in the Gold Coast game. Who was it?
It was a Geelong player as well. It might have been Reece Stanley. Or there was a player on Friday night, I think, that,
yes.
And even though we were at the other game, that there was allegations that he instigated his head hitting the ground as a secondary motion apart from the tackle.
Noah Anderson had one. Zave O'Neill tackled in the ground, and Noah Anderson was expecting contact with his head to the ground, didn't get it, sort of played for it, but then realised he didn't get it. We don't want to see that come into the game.
No,
do we?
Exactly not. So no, I think on that front, the Van Rooyen case, I think everyone's comfortable with that, or most people are comfortable with how that played out. But it was a 4-hour hearing, which certainly every legal parameter was used. In fact, they used a legal case to try to build their argument.
Yeah, correct. Before we move on, I just want to mention this. You don't even have to comment on it, but we spoke about booing last week, right? Buddy Franklin. Others getting booed. Apparently, I didn't see this game. Apparently, Jason Horne-Francis, the booing was pretty insipid from North Melbourne fans, which I was disappointed with. They should have given him the full treatment.
But it wasn't in Melbourne. That was a problem.
Yeah, okay. But I had some feedback from someone on Twitter that said that they went to Tasmania and they just were disappointed. He was a North fan. He said, I was so disappointed with my own fans that we didn't give it to him harder. And then yesterday in the game we called, the umpiring was poor. There was a couple of bad decisions before half-time, and the umpires were copying it. Audible boos, like absolutely copying it. Way worse than Buddy Franklin, right? Collingwood fans again. I have little to zero problem with it. Yet, are we going to see head coaches coming out? Are we going to see members of the media coming out? Are we going to? It was umpire appreciation round this week, Skeeter. Are we going to see people coming out saying you can't boo umpires? I'm dead serious because the way I look at the Buddy Franklin thing, and I don't see it as a racial thing. Eddie Betts said it well that if Buddy Franklin found it racial, then it's racial. But if he didn't,
he didn't even hear it, according to
correct. So that about summarises what I think about that.
Oh, and you're right. I think the media talk. I mean, we saw on Footy Classified, like Sir Carolyn Wilson, Hutchie going up.
Hey, Sam Mitchell told his own fans you can't boo.
Seriously, Matthew Pavlich, he got it on the pedestal. What's happening here? Look, everyone agrees. If there was any hint, and ever is a hint, of a racial tone in booing or abuse or whatever it is, absolutely. But
the umpires getting booed identified to me how ridiculous the chat was, because the umpires
hypocrisy.
They copped it. They absolutely copped it.
And they'll keep copying it. And you know what? They know that they could actually. I remember listening to young Johansson, a young Dan Johansson, who was umpiring on Saturday night. He was on radio and we're talking about being booed, etc. He goes, you know what? To be honest with you, I don't even hear it out there in terms of the game. You've got too much on, so it doesn't actually affect them. I mean, I know Dean Margetts went through some grief with it, with the personal stuff or stuff online or whatever it was. But
that's getting attacked off the field.
Yeah.
It's similar for players, I think. Out in the field, you expect to be copying it. You don't really hear it as a player.
Well,
anyway. It's just noise.
Same as the umpires.
Just noise.
Yep, exactly.
Anyway, that's probably enough on booing for the rest of the year. Maybe even the next decade. It'd be nice not to talk about that again. Let's get into the rest of the Western Australian team. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Shelter FootyCast. Gold Coast defeat West Coast by 73 points. I think the worst loss of the year by West Coast, and that's saying something. They've had some 100-point losses, but I thought the way they went about it in the first half was incredibly disappointing. Working with Fox Footy on the weekend, I saw Tim Kelly be interviewed at halftime by Matty Pavlich, and I thought he was really honest and great. It was great access, really. He came off at halftime, and as a player, sometimes it's really difficult to identify what's going on when you're out there, because you're just so... moment focused. It's really difficult to get a gauge on it. That's why you have coaches, right? They get an overview of it. But Tim Kelly basically instantly just said, not good enough, inside, around the ball, the pressure was poor, and was really, pretty much hand up. It's on us as a midfield group. And they came out in that third quarter and they were better, but fell away again. I just thought the way that they lost was the most disappointing of the year.
But I'm not sure anyone's surprised. This has been happening all year. They've given up 44 goals, I think it is, in second quarters. I think scored 17 themselves. They've been saying it all year. We're not sure what happens in the second quarter. They generally come out in the third and show a little bit of spirit. But yeah, this is a common theme with the Eagles. And you talk about the Tim Kelly interview. Well, Tom Barras, we interviewed him on 6PR afterwards. And I said, look, I asked him the question about how much the players hurting. He said, look, make no mistake, we're going through a lot here because we love our club, go home, have sleepless nights, all of that. So the players are hurting, but the bottom line is, and I've asked Mark Lacroix this yesterday, how do you fix it? Is it just by simply doing what Adelaide did? And we talked about this yesterday on radio about how they got their draft right over, a 3 or 4 year period.
And Rankin, Rochelle, Dawson, they're the three that jump off the page.
Yep, exactly. Going back to, the way they managed to build their list again. And West Coast are going to have to do that. I don't think there's any other way than going through the draft.
I think it's a little bit of a Collingwood mix. Collingwood were quite aggressive 3 years ago with Treloar, Stephenson, and a couple of others that they moved on with a bit of controversy around it.
The Eagles going to do that?
I think they'll have to have someone that they move on, maybe one player that they go, right, we need to really focus on the future here. Don't know who that'll be, but they probably will. Just reading the tea leaves.
Well, you can't just let it just meander on on that front. But going back to Friday's game, it was horribly disappointing from a competitive point of view. Again, a lot of us went there thinking they could challenge the Gold Coast Suns, but as it turns out, they. Matty Rowell, to be fair, he was terrific, I thought, in the midfield.
The lack of competitiveness will be the biggest thing Adam Simpson and the team will be concerned about. You can lack talent and you can lack polish. We saw GWS yesterday against Collingwood really lacking polish, like poor skills. And I actually think that's a less of an issue than the competitiveness factor. If you're a team that doesn't have the talent and the players out there, you can be competitive. And I'm sorry to single out someone, but like Jack Darling, first quarter, Charlie Ballard. Charlie Ballard's a good defender. He's not a great defender. There's some greats running around the AFL at the moment. I don't have Charlie Ballard in that. He had 4 intercept marks in the first quarter. This is before Jack's broken arm. 4 intercept marks in the first quarter. 3 of those were contested one-on-ones against Jack. It then went on to Charlie Ballard equaling the greatest ever amount of intercept marks in a game in the AFL's history. He also had 9 spoils. So I don't know if he lost any contests, but there was 19 contests that Charlie Ballard either won or halved. As a forward or as a player, you need to do better than that competitively. If it means that you're not going to mark it as a forward, you just need to bring it to ground.
Yep.
Like some of the great forwards do that. They identify when they're not going to mark it. They don't get beaten. You can't get beaten like that. You can't get beaten 10 times at intercept marking. That wasn't just Jack. It wasn't the first quarter, but it continued on. You need to just look inside yourself and not get beaten. And then that goes into the midfield. That goes into the back line. I thought their physicality as a back line was really poor. I was watching West Coast really closely, and that's why I was the most disappointed in that than other games. Other games, they were just, I don't know, they were just beaten. This one they were beaten by stuff that I think you can stop regardless of who's out in the field.
Mm. Yeah, and Jack's point is valid. He was... Well, he's
broken his arm
down in form anyway. He's going to be out. I'm not saying this is a blessing, but
it's not the worst thing in the world.
He'd go and have a reset. So broken arm, what's that? Is that 6 to 8 or something?
No, it'll be less than that. You can put a plate in it. Oh, you know what? Travis Kelce might have something to say about this.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
But I've seen players come back in 2-3 weeks.
But you wouldn't push him any quicker than normal.
Just depending on what it is. If it's just a fracture, basically they plate it, and the risk is the edges of the plate. Mark Lacroix famously did it and re-fractured his arm where the plate ended, not where the break was, but where the plate ended. So it's sort of like a metal plate that goes in there, and you have a bit of a weakness on the either end of the plate. So I think Jack will be back out there within time, but they certainly don't have any senior experienced players bashing the door down. Luke Shuey's 4 weeks away. Elliot Yeo, I'm unsure of his status. Shannon Hearn's probably going to be another week. Jeremy McGovern's ahead of schedule, but he's still a while away. Jamie Cripps is ahead of schedule a while away. Liam Ryan, I think he's almost done for the year. Nick Nananui isn't close. Like all of these, these are their core players. Luke Shuey, did I say him? They're not coming back next week.
So just everyone was bagging Jack and his form, and we know all that. So who comes in and plays that role? In all seriousness, who have they got?
I don't think anyone really. I mean, you may have to play a Jamison more in the ruck and Bailey Williams as a forward. But I think Bailey Williams is probably one of the few players that's really improved this year. Like you've seen him improve. To finish on a positive note, I thought Liam Duggan was outstanding in his first game as captain. He was clearly the West Coast best player.
Yeah.
And it looked like he rose a level. Now, I know Liam Duggan's a premiership player and he's experienced, and that's why he was captain. But that's what you need to do. You need to get outside. I thought like it was visible that Liam Duggan was,
embraced
he stepped up, and now to get yourself out of it, you ask, what do you do as West Coast? How do you get out of it? You need to step up. You need to rise above yourself. You need to get out of the shit. You need to stop worrying about your own form. But it's bloody hard to do. I've played in bad teams, and I thought about this, you continue to be bad because it's hard. That's why not many sides can turn it around, because it's bloody difficult. So all of this stuff, of course, is a lot easier sitting on the green chair on the Shelter FootyCast set. But I have done it, but it's really difficult.
And you're put it this way, the numbers, the amount of losses that are being pocketed by the Eagles here. Winning, if it's a habit, winning, and so too is losing, and it's become a habit at the West Coast.
It's not just this year, is it? Jermaine Jones broke his nose; he was subbed out of the game, so he may be out of the team. Jack Darling, of course, broken. Oscar Allen kicks 2 goals, the only player in the competition to remain with multiple goals every game he's played, which you can't.
Extraordinary.
No, exactly. In a 4-9 team that's going poorly, he's still in the top 5 of the Coleman medal. Fremantle defeat Sydney by 17. Neither of us picked this one, Skeeter. I don't think many people did, which, looking at the game and how it went out and thinking about it, maybe we should have given more consideration to Fremantle. I think it was... No one was sold on it, on them. Well, I certainly wasn't.
No, but I certainly wasn't. I wasn't huge on Sydney. Their form wasn't great. They were down on numbers, and I'm totally honest, I thought Sydney would still find a way to win at the SCG, but to Fremantle's credit, and look, back-to-back wins, we go back, I think I said last week, that Hawthorn win, a soft kill, wasn't the greatest victory of all time, but it might have just engendered a bit of confidence amongst the group. Well,
this team is the same team as last year. They clearly just lack confidence. So the game against Hawthorn, whether it be false or not, it gives you confidence. Because, we can move the ball against an AFL side. So they probably combined a couple more factors in this game. Their ball movement was okay. It wasn't like their forward line really functioned really well in this game against Sydney, but their midfield work started to look, I think, probably the best it has over the last three or so weeks.
Yes, so, I mean, Sarong 33 touches, Brayshaw 31, they got it right. Darcy was terrific in the ruck. 18 disposals, 44 hit-outs, 9 clearances.
Against Tom Hickey, who's a good player.
Yeah, and he's coming back, Tom. So, but Sean Darcy, we know he's top 3 or 4 ruckman in the competition. Luke Jackson, another follow-up performance, 17 and 3 goals.
You've got it. Have you got it in your head?
Have I got? This is the game, so that's. But it's
all action Jackson.
Yeah, so they're back. They're back on board.
That's soft by the West.
Schultz 4 goals. I love Schultz. You just gave them a bit. So
Shooter's coming up on BackChat this week.
Is he really? Okay. Yeah. Well, no, it's good. I mean, to see them play that sort of footy against a Swan side that is clearly sliding, and they're with all due respects, they're some of their better players are dwindling.
I think it was the only call I got right this preseason. I said they were dropping out. I said they were going to have a really poor year. I'm hanging my hat on this one.
Yeah, well, off the back of Sydney, I think, and not that I had any joy. No, I was strong that Buddy. I think you're saying he's in kick 50.
Right. Oh, you retired Buddy. At the start of this
Buddy.
year.
No. I just said I think his best is behind him. I reckon he might even retire. Put it this way: there'll be a farewell game for Buddy this year. Would you be thinking that's the case?
Well, I said he's going to kick 50, so do I have to go on my sword here or not?
Well, just
I refuse.
Just both of us getting a Sydney one wrong.
Correct.
All right.
Look, yeah, you pretty much nailed it here. Brandon Walker, I know he goes a little bit under the radar. He kept Papley very quiet, which is a big.
Yeah,
they need those role players. Like they can't all. But be
also, Papley gives the energy, the voice. He gives that the spark, and he just couldn't get involved.
Fife sub again. Do you think he plays next week? Full game.
I've got no reason.
You got no problem leaving him there
to change up what is working. Now, if there's an injury, then it's an obvious change.
Right. So
of role.
if he's right to come back in, you think he's no guarantee to play?
I think the sub role at the moment is suitable. I don't see any reason to change the mix. If you obviously think differently.
Oh, I mean, he's in their top 5 best players.
No, not anymore. He's not. If you're
who is?
Well, at the moment, I've just named 3 of them. 4
No,
of them.
I want Darcy, you can't name. I want 5.
Darcy, Sarong, Jackson, Brayshaw.
Yep.
Pierce.
People were asking Pierce to get dropped.
Nat Fyfe is not in their top 5 best players at the moment.
Yes, he's
not because he hasn't been
playing. He hasn't played.
So therefore,
is Luke Shuey and West Coast best top 5 players?
No, at the moment, no, he's not playing.
Well, it's very difficult to be in the top 5 if you're not playing.
But Nat Fyfe isn't. That's what I'm saying. You're suggesting that I should put Nat Fyfe in the top because he's won 2 Brownlows.
Well, but your logic means he just plays sub all year.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I said if there's an injury or a player that's not.
Right, so he's going to wait. He's going to bide his time, you reckon? In a Fremantle side that's won 3 games this year.
In a Fremantle side that's won their past 2, he's been subbed for both of them. I have no issue with him being subbed this week against Geelong.
There you go. Okay.
So then who misses out on that front?
I knew you were coming with that. I absolutely knew it. I don't know where to go. Well, you can't drop Josh Tracy. That was one of his better games for the club. Amos, you're not dropping.
You need to keep getting gains into him.
Shooter, Schultz, he's not coming out. You're never dropping him, which... I think he's still on the rookie list. I genuinely think he might still be on the rookie list.
Who's that?
Lachie Schultz.
No,
mate.
he's not,
mate. One of the most.
That's bizarre.
That's one of the most unique contract journeys in the AFL I've ever seen. So he came just a little squizit from BackChat. So he got drafted, a mature age player. Got 2 years. He got delisted, right? And they put him on the rookie list. He went 1 year on the rookie list. He then signed, at the end of that year, a 2-year extension with a 3rd-year option. So he's currently in the 2nd year of that deal that he signed. It was on the rookie list, and I don't think he's been put on the senior list. And I asked him...
How does that work?
I asked him, and he didn't even know. He's just happy playing his role for the side, lets his manager do that. I don't...
He still gets paid what he should be getting paid, surely.
Well, yeah, so basically when COVID happened... they brought in a few different rules around pre-listing players, and so it gave clubs a bit more flexibility in order to not have to delist so many players. You have to make a minimum 5 changes a year. So at the end of the year, it was just really poor timing when at the end of that first year that he did the rookie thing, they didn't have any list spots left because of the other contracts of other players. And so it wasn't that they didn't want him, but he almost found himself without a home. So I think it's an anomaly, but I think Lachie Schultz is still on the rookie list. I could be wrong, but the research that I did, and I went pretty deep into it, I think he's still on the rookie list. I don't think people know that.
No, I didn't.
It's outrageous.
A good get.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure he's still on the rookie list according to the Perth Now website. You're right, he's in the second year of his rookie deal.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
And so he's got to read a minimum amount of games to get a third year on the rookie list this year. So he's got one more game to play, and then he gets a buck. Yeah, is that outrageous?
Oh, that is. It's a very good get because when you said that to me, I said you've obviously still.
I've been on the shelters with you on the weekend, which I have, mind you, but I feel fine. But yeah, going back to who we're dropping him, we're not dropping Jackson, we're not dropping Frederick. That's pretty much their forward line. Switkowski doesn't get dropped. Banfield?
Possibly. But
would you have Banfield out? And who would you rather, Fife or Banfield?
No, I'm just saying.
You're telling... No.
Yeah, no, I'm taking the
Banfield.
same side.
No.
If there aren't, no. If you hear the answer, you'll get the ultimate answer. If there are no injuries, I'm leaving the side as it is this week, including the sub.
I'm finally giving you a player that I would like you to tell me that they will pick over Nat Fife. Banfield.
I'm leaving the team as is for this weekend.
Banfield.
I'm leaving the team as it is. That's my answer.
Skeeter into politics, please. He hasn't answered the question.
Well, there is. I'm leaving Nat Fife as a sub. I'm not sure why you find that such a difficult proposition.
Because he's one of their best players. That's why. Anyway, we've got to
He's an impact player now.
Oh, God. Here we go. Seriously. It was credit where credit's due. I've told everyone I'm off Freo. I'm not
on them.
Fully back on them. I don't think I can pick them over the next 2 weeks, to be honest. I think they'll go in as underdogs, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win one of them. Can I say that?
If they can win one of them.
That's Melbourne and Geelong.
Yeah, if they can win one of those two, and most likely it'll be Geelong.
I would say Geelong here is the game. I don't think it's a good thing that Geelong have just lost to Richmond.
No, I agree totally.
Which we're going to get into right now. So that's the Western Australian teams done and dusted. Skeeter and I both picked Sydney there. Good job. West Coast. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield, Shutter FootyCast. Richmond defeat Geelong Friday night. It was a good game. It was happening while the West Coast Gold Coast debauchery was going on. Richmond started well. I'm pretty sure, and I know people listening would have heard me, I'm pretty sure I said this was a real possibility.
You did? No, you called this that you thought for Dion Prestige's 200th game that they would really trouble Geelong. I think you might have tipped the Cats.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you did. But I think you were spot on by suggesting that this was a game that you thought Damien Hardwick would get them up for.
You had to watch the first 5 minutes because there was a bit of a delay, so I was up in the studio watching it. Richmond were just sizzling. Their first play, they got it in their back line. They went bang, 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 shape, handball. They just looked so up and about. And that's mental. That is not skill. That's not talent. That is Damien Hardwick and the players wanting to make this a thing. You know, they're such a proud club with premiership players all over the place. They actually had more premiership players playing than Geelong did, which is an interesting stat given Geelong's injuries at the moment. It was one of those games, but you couldn't pick them off the back of what they've done this year and Geelong. But it does reiterate the fact that I don't think Geelong's all the way back.
No.
People have been very up and about. They haven't beaten many good sides. You know, I'm not off them, certainly. But, they've still got some work to do around the game. And it's based on... They've got a lot of people out at the moment in that team.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. They've had some soft kills against Sydney. And, again, we've seen where they're travelling. Hawthorn. But they were, again,
Essendon, Essendon was a shootout. It was like 130 or 110. That's a bit of a... meh game that doesn't really do much.
Yeah, and Essendon sort of just started to tail off a fraction. Yeah, so you're right. They've got the Dockers over here, but going back to Richmond, I still don't think they're playing finals myself, but I think they're one of those dangerous sides. You're right. When they have an occasion or against the running premiers, etc. Dusty Martin kicks 4 goals. Terrific. Be honest, didn't see much of this game because, of course, it was coinciding with ours. But
Cochin kicked 3, Rewalt kicked 3. So Cochin's been playing a bit more of that forward role this year. Cats actually led clearances in the game and dominated stoppages. But Richmond, once they won the ball back, their transition game was stronger than Geelong's. It was the first time Geelong were the youngest side in a game since 2020, round 2, which surprising, yes. Richmond, though, they bring a Hopper and Taranto in and they have Rewalt still going around. They have Cochin still going around. Geelong lose Dangerfield, who's there probably one of the most senior players. I'm not overly worried about it, but that's what happens. Richmond win.
And then the problem for Geelong, I suppose, well, keep going back to last year, they were 5-4, I think, after 9 rounds. What are they at the moment? They're probably
4 and 5.
4 and 5. So they're not far off the mark, but
Or is it 5 and 4
You can't see them reproducing 16 wins in a row like they did last year.
Not yet, no. But
so they're a bit off that.
Freo fans were a little bit scared coming into this game, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll go back to they beat Geelong.
They're 5 and 4.
Yeah,
they're 5 and 4.
5 and 4. So exactly the same spot they were last year from memory. Now, the other thing, whenever I think of Geelong and Fremantle, last year they won, of course, Fremantle down at the Cattery, but the times they've played them over here, they look like men versus boys.
Correct.
Geelong v Fremantle, that is. Now, given their personnel availability, that might change a bit on Saturday.
Huge game. Huge game in the context of the season for Fremantle. If they can get Geelong, confidence is back. They're back. Flag mantle could be back on. Port Adelaide defeat North Melbourne by 70 points. Honestly, not going to spend a lot of time on this. I didn't see it. 70-point margin against North Melbourne. Seriously, who cares? 14 goal kickers for Port Adelaide, highest ever for a Port team. So you'd be spewing if you were one of the 8 that didn't get on the board.
Didn't
or
get
9
with
a sub. Aidan Core got suspended in this one. He chipped someone behind the play, literally punched him in the face. So he got the 1 week for a punch in the face. Seriously. Face-to-face with Bryn Teakle, jumper punching, took a hand off, punched him in the chin, got 1 week.
1 week.
But we're trying to give JVR 2 weeks for a spoil, running back with a flight. Genuinely, that's embarrassing.
That's what happened. Yeah, okay. North Melbourne, haven't they just become an easy beat as we've seen over the past few years? So that's gone pear-shaped. But credit to Port. I mean, going to Tassie, getting the result. They've got bigger fish to fry, beginning with Melbourne on Friday night.
Tom Jonas, first goal since 2014 and second goal in his 210 game
They would
career.
have come from everywhere, wouldn't they?
We bloody love that.
Give him a high five. But no, Port Adelaide, they'll play finals. We know that now.
Yes.
Pretty much. You comfortable with that?
Yeah, top 4. They sit fourth right now on the ladder. They're going to play finals. Look, I wasn't convinced at the start of this year, but they continue to win. That game doesn't mean they're playing finals.
No, but
you still got to just win.
This Friday's going to be the one that...
Who they play?
Melbourne.
Oh, yeah.
At the Adelaide Oval. So that's huge. But no, well done, Port.
Melbourne defeat Hawthorn by 54 points. It's pretty much similar, right?
Regulation.
We expect this to happen. Melbourne second on the ladder behind Collingwood at the moment.
Yep. And look, they had this game done and dusted, really.
Well, Hawthorn kicked 1 goal in the first half.
Yeah, so it was all over at quarter time. It was 5-5 to 1 point, 8-6 to 1-3 at the half. So the usual suspects.
Oliver, Petrarca, Viney.
Yep, doing their best work. And Viney, outstanding. Petrarca got a piece of the footy. What are they? Game behind Collingwood now in second spot and humming along pretty well.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add on that game, Skeeter. We both picked Melbourne and we move on. Brisbane defeat Essendon by 42 points. I mean, this was a tiny bit surprising. Was this at the Gabba?
Yeah, was it the Gabba?
Maybe it wasn't then. Brisbane don't lose up there.
They just don't. And Joey Danaher with 6 goals.
Yeah.
That's a good return, and he's one of those players, as we've talked about, hot and cold sometimes.
Brisbane were down at half-time here.
Yeah.
So Essendon start well. They look like they have a pretty distinguishable, almost got that out, Skater, game style. You can see the way they're trying to play.
Yeah.
I always thought Essendon's list coming into this season was just lacking... they're lacking a spine, in my opinion, and that's not spineless in terms of full forward, centre half forward. Like, who's their full forward?
Yeah, they don't have a.
Who's their centre half forward? Yeah, So he goes out. Draper is a okay ruckman. He's one of those ruckmen trying to jump up into the next tier. I think he has good games and bad games. And then behind the footy, they lose Ridley after being concussed by Junior Rioli. And they don't have a lot of key position backs either. So against this Brisbane side, who do have some good tall players, I think that's Essendon's deficiencies that they're going to have to add to over probably the next couple of years.
Yeah, and Darcy Parish not out there. Look, defensively they've been better this year. They conceded 87 points on the weekend, only kicked 6 themselves. But I still think they have been an improving side. So they had their forms. Obviously, what really hurt them when you go back and look at their past month, Anzac Day. They lead by 28 points, I think, against Collingwood. They get completely steamrolled in the last quarter.
A win against Collingwood on Anzac Day would have done wonders for this young team. They've fallen away a little bit. They're probably regressing to the mean a little bit. They're just sitting just outside the 8. I probably have them finishing there.
Yeah, I don't think they're playing finals footy, but that doesn't mean it's a failure for Brad Scott.
What is it? Fait accompli? Is that it? What's the French?
Fait accompli.
Is that it?
Les dames there.
Yeah, okay, I don't know. So I'm just asking you. I'm asking you what it was. So that's it, done and dusted. Just remember, Skeeter, we've got to spit out a Thirsty Camel Clanger of the Week. Don't run out of your favourites. Grab your shelters Thirsty Camel.
Yes, of
remember
course.
Skinner.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
Thank you very much. Western Bulldogs defeat Carlton by 20 points. Bulldogs had to come home late against the Blues, who it was a bit of a scrappy affair, wasn't it? I mean, not high scoring whatsoever. This is 59 to 79, and it was probably sitting in the 40s for most of this game. So opened up a little bit late in the game. I'm going to go for it. The Thirsty Camel Clanger of the Week. Did you see the goal kicking in this? I know we bang on about it. Harry Mackay,
Why?
40 metres out, directly in front. It's too far to snap. I don't care how much.
No, I agree.
He's standing sideways like a Gaelic footy player, and he's bellying the ball out in the full.
He's like Johnny Wilkinson lining up to kick a goal, kick a penalty for. I mean, what is going on with this guy who's clearly talented? And that's the frustration.
He's beyond talented. He's a Coleman medalist. He's the best forward in the game 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
He's a gun. He is clearly the little man in his head is just turned into a giant.
Like, I understand goal kicking is mental, but the good goal kickers I was around at my time at the footy club, Mark Lacroix and Josh Kennedy, some of the best. All I remember of them was just them kicking goals and exactly the same
Routine.
Yeah, and I know Josh Kennedy went through his stutter step, so he's spoken about that on BackChat and around as well. His routine was about his last 3 steps always. It always had to be the last 3 steps going straight at goal, momentum through the ball, and that's when he felt he's most comfortable. At stages, he did the stutter step at stages. He was one of the better snaps going around. So, but he would have his. You could see how clear he was in his mind. He had sort of pretty much imaginary lines on the boundaries. If he was ever outside of those, it'd be a right foot snap on one side, left foot snap on the other. But I would say 80% of that forward line, out to 60 metres out, Josh Kennedy was running straight at the middle of the goals and never giving the goals away. You hear Jason Dunstall speaking about that all the time. I dare say Big Plugger Lockett would be saying the same thing. It is mental. And the best goal kickers I saw practiced it all the time. They never changed. Mark Lacroix never changed his goal kicking routine ever. I never saw him change it. But he was a snapper too.
Yeah, and he also went through a little period after I think he broke his arm. I'm just trying to remember when calling his games, and you just thought, I'll lock him in, where he did have a couple of issues with his goal king set shots.
Yes.
And it came after he broke his arm. Now, whether that was coincidental or
the
what
drop
happened,
maybe?
you think? Yeah, either way. But no, you're right. I mean, I go back further than you. Gary Buckenara, if you want someone to kick a goal for your life. Hawthorn, absolutely. Tony Lockett, Jason Dunstall, the same routine. And so, quite frankly, Michael Voss, if he has, I'm sure they must be doing some work.
That's what I mean. That's what I was about to say. Like they're not just letting. Well, I assume they're not just letting him go about his business and backing him in.
Yeah,
you'd hope not.
You'd hope there's. Hey, listen,
it's embarrassing.
Harry, this ain't working for you. And
every time he gets it, it's a clanger of the week. It's the Thirsty Camel clanger of the week every time he kicks the ball.
Yeah, well, I've got my own clanger of the week from the same game.
Very good.
Yeah,
you want to give it to me?
How about this? Paddy Cripps, $1,000, pulling Barley Smith's hair.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
What's he done?
He pulled his hair.
The Thirsty Camel clanger of the week. Don't run out of your favourites. Grab your shoulders at Thirsty Camel. It wouldn't have been a problem I ever had in my career.
Nor me.
So he's pulled his hair.
He's pulled his hair.
$1,000 fine.
$1,000 fine. Thanks for coming.
Was it in a contest? Or?
Don't know. I just know he did it. I know he did it. I was. What was that Saturday night?
I don't know.
I was on Planet Mars Saturday night, but he pulled his hair. That's a clanger.
Jeez, that's an absolute clanger. Thanks very much. Donate it to charity. Piss poor. Bulldogs are an interesting team this season. I saw Liberatore kick a really important goal late in this game. My favourite player in the competition. Carlton just 1 goal in the first half, so they start poorly. 1 goal from 29 inside 50s, but they missed a lot. They were poor. Then Blues came back. They kicked 6 in a row, got in front of the Bulldogs, and it was sort of a little bit like Richmond against West Coast. Clicked them into gear, and they put the foot on the accelerator a little bit. Rory Lobb's starting to look like the player that they asked for, adding some consistency. He's a good kick at goal. Rory Lobb's a good, nice, consistent kick at goal.
Yep.
So, look, Bulldogs, I rate them. I think they're sort of doing what Bulldogs always does.
But, mate, Libba, our man, my man, Bontempelli, I just love it. I hope he wins a Brownlow. I really do. I think he deserves to win a Brownlow, given what he's producing. But even looking at the Bulldogs' form, they had one bad loss. I'm trying to remember when that was.
They started poorly. People were coming at them about
started really poorly. But you look at their body of work over the past 8 weeks, it's been good.
It has.
It's been really good. Where are they sitting now? They're currently in 6th position, but
they're in 6th. They've won their last 4 games on the trot, so they're up and about and up and going. And knowing that footy club, they don't need to win pretty. They don't run around, hoping that they, win by 10 goals. They just need to win. Luke Beveridge has instilled that over a long period of that time at that club, and they just get it done.
Yeah.
Based from really strong midfield work, they get it into their forward line. Sometimes it can be scrappy. They're not the prettiest team to watch, but when they're at their best, they're efficient in front of goal and inside their 50, and that's what they did on the weekend. And they beat a Carlton side. They're in trouble.
They're in trouble. They're outside the 8 now.
Yep.
And I'm not sure they're getting back in.
Yep.
They've got Collingwood this week off the top of my head.
Yep.
That's, they're in a world of pain. And Michael, if there's one coach that I think, he's not going to lose his job in the short term, but if there's one coach that I suppose there are questions being asked about what's happening at the footy club and the results that they're producing, it's Carlton at the moment.
Carlton play Collingwood at the G, Sydney at the SCG, Melbourne at the G, Essendon at Telstra Dome the next 4 weeks.
Telstra Dome, okay.
Sorry.
But the other day, they're playing, hang on, seriously, are they playing at Marvel Stadium?
I just made that up because I've said the MCG 3 times. And I thought I'd just throw it at the Dome.
So that'd be a disgrace having 50. Carlton Essendon still a big
true.
game.
That's the MCG.
Anyway,
so talking about big games, they play Collingwood, Melbourne, and Essendon all in Melbourne and Sydney at the SCG.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Absolutely. Adelaide defeats St Kilda yesterday in a pretty decent game of footy, but St Kilda never looked like it. We watched this one on the big screens while we're calling another game Skeeter. Tex Walker kicked 5. Now the most goals kicked in South Australia ever. 312 goals he's kicked.
He's had a really interesting... I know he's gone through the racial issue 12 months ago from memory.
Yep, did his ACL.
Yep. But for him to be playing, he's having a really good season.
Yep.
It's just been a renaissance, I suppose, of Tex Walker, and full credit to him. And if we're talking about Michael Voss being a coach under pressure, Matty Nix almost has to be coach of the year.
Very close.
In terms of improving.
Very close to it, yeah. In terms of the improvement and a clear game style. They're exciting to watch.
They're a good team. They're kicking 100 points more often than not. I think they kicked 100 on yesterday.
Yep.
And they won comfortably by 52.
121.
Their midfield is dynamic. Their forward line, you put Isaac Rankin in the mix. And their defence, as I've said, they're a bunch of no-names, really. But they've been able to really stifle opposition forwards. And look, one of the great assets of St Kilda this year has been their ability to shut down forwards from the opposition.
Tim Embry got concussed in this game with a clash with his own player in Higgins, so he came out. Steele, their best midfielder, St Kilda, knee injury halfway through this one, a little bit later in the game. Rory Laird got subbed out of this one I was watching, so there'll be some fantasy players around the country a little bit concerned with that, but maybe being up by so much, they just took it easy on probably... with Dawson, one of their most important players. Dawson continues his great form. He had 33 touches. I think, like you said, they're getting contributors, which is, as a fan, you don't want Walker kicking 10 goals and no one else, which they have been at times, been really Walker, focused. But Rankin kicks 2. Pedler, he's one of the best young players in the competition at the moment. I really like how he plays. He's continued his good form. Fogarty kicks 2. He's taken his time to develop, hasn't he? But you can see, you can always see he would have games. And I remember West Coast here, he kicked 8 goals or something like that. You could see the talent and the quality, but it felt like they were holding him back. But they've unleashed him on the competition now. He's a gun, and they've just got a lot of different guys that put their hand up and stand up, don't they?
Absolutely. And I talked about how they've improved themselves over the last 3 or 4 years. Well, one guy that you think of in 2020, they picked up Riley Thilthorpe at pick number 2. Pedler came in that draft in 2020 at 11. Berry at 28.
See number 11 draft pick, is he?
2021, they finished 15th. Rochelle at pick 6. Saligo at 36. They traded in Jordan Dawson.
Saligo's having a good year.
Yeah, absolutely. And this year, of course, they finished 14th at the end of last year. Traded their first for Rankin.
Yep.
And pick up Michael Annie.
Who's had a really good year. So there's 10 players.
So that's a template maybe for an Eagles or a North, whatever. There's a way out of it, and that Adelaide have shown exactly the way to do what they're doing now.
Yep, very good. I think we both picked... No, well, you
Ruffy. My Ruffy'd St Kilda, but my Ruffy was about as successful as your Ruffy with West Coast, so we both get a big donut there.
We've actually had some feedback here from Benjamin Fox Skeeter, so hello, Ben.
Yeah, g'day, Ben. Should I be worried?
Ruffy of the Week messages.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on the definition. This is from Ben Fox.
Yeah.
And this is to you. Right? This is
course,
two Mark Reeves. Ruffy, a large outsider or risk in regards to betting odds, team personal, wins or losses at track or field, allowing whenever said roughie is won, you're able to let every man and his dog know you called that either just before the race or days before a game, etc. Example, Will Schofield, round 9, Eagles to win against Gold Coast. Odds, Eagles, $3.40, Gold Coast, $1.32 as per Bluebet. Eagles also playing absolutely horrendously, equals correct. Roughie, Skeeter, round 9 in regards to this game. Saints to win against Crows. Odds, Saints, $2.20, Crows, $1.67. Saints have been sitting top of the tree since weeks 1 to 7. Had first loss, now third. Very lucky to be outside on betting odds. Clearly, thanks to Bluebet Legends, they want us to win some cash. This roughie, no. It's a big no for mine, and it's a big no for mine, Skeeter. So that's from Benjamin.
Okay, can I say to Benjamin very succinctly, Ben, get foxed.
Get Robbie foxed, unreal. That's very good, Skeeter. Now, so you just got to work on that.
Okay, well, I'll just pick the biggest outsider, have no care responsibility, and
that's
see
what a
them get
roughie
pumped.
is. Yeah, that's what a roughie is. And so when one comes up, when I hit one of these, I'm going to give it to you from Billabose. And when you keep
Your last two roughies have lost by a total of 180 points.
That's okay, Skeeter. One of them will win at some point. Well, maybe they won't. Collingwood defeat GWS by 65. Last game of the weekend. You and I called this game, or you called most of it, then you left. Collingwood.
I had another job to go to.
You're lining your pockets with cash around Perth. Collingwood. I don't think they dismantled the Giants. Collingwood were just better. They did the fundamentals well. They made the right decisions consistently. And on the reverse, GWS didn't apply the amount of pressure that's required to play Collingwood. They had 12 tackles in the first half.
Their skills were poor.
To disgrace. Their skills are horrific. They just continued to fundamentals, miss handballs with no pressure, miss kicks coming out of the back line. They couldn't transition the footy. And adversely, they couldn't stop Collingwood. Anytime Collingwood got the ball in their back line, they transitioned. And we know Collingwood's a good side. They're the best side in the competition. But if you're going to come up against a side like that, you need to take your opportunities in front of goal. You need to do the little things well, and you need to be consistent, which I think is what make Collingwood great. They're doing the little things well. They're not this flashy side that I think people think they are. This Collingwood, they take it on through the middle, and whenever they're down, they just roll the dice. I think they do the little things well. They're clean. They use their teammates.
Their pressure is great.
Their pressure's great. They're based on fundamentals of footy. So GWS weren't good enough, and Collingwood rolled them.
Absolutely. And individually, Dacos, that's Nick, has 41.
No, just don't tag him. It's sweet. Don't tag him. 41 touches, 540 metres gained. Oh, he didn't have much impact on the game, did he? Yeah, no. Seriously, we spoke to GWS. I won't say who we spoke to. Someone from GWS before the game. I said, are you tagging Nick Dacos? They said, no, we're going to try to attack him offensively. Well, how did that go for you? Seriously, 41 touches. Tag the bloke. Tag him. Every week, tag him. Why wouldn't you? It's so easy. It happened. Sydney did it, and they should have been winning at 3/4 time. How do you not tag this bloke? I don't care he's 19. Tag him. I'm going to bleed out of my throat talking about this stuff. Tag the bloke. 41 touches. He has an impact every time.
Yeah, well, you keep banging on about Nick Dacos. I actually love the game of Jordan De Goey.
Yeah, he was outstanding.
He
was better than Dacos.
That's what I'm saying. He was a guy that I sort of thought, in so many ways, set up goals. It was so creative, brought players into the game. So, you can tag Dacos, and that they would have still won the game by a margin.
Shout out to the big American Mason Cox. He was the best player on the ground the first half, and pretty close to it for the rest of the game, to be honest, against Matt Flynn, who copped a rocket at half-time, I reckon, and came out and sort of evened the ledger a little bit. But Mason Cox in that first half, I think he finished with 9 marks, 4 contested, 25 hit-outs, 19 touches, 2 goals. That's probably, bar that prelim, which I have a bit of an outlier, to be honest, with that Richmond game, because he hasn't been able to replicate that. But that game that he played then as a solo ruck for Collingwood, that was really important in the scheme of his career. I think that was his 98th game or 99th game, one of those.
It's a big achievement, isn't it, to play 100 games, which he will, at AFL level, given his background.
Same day as Steele Sidebottom's 300th, I believe.
Against North Melbourne. I
think it's 2 weeks
at
away.
Marvel Stadium. Yeah. So, I'm sure he'll have the lesser
It's good.
life.
I reckon, not knowing Mason, but just interacting with him a little bit, I think his teammates will be happy just just pulling him down a little bit, just saying, hey, this is about Steele, not you. We know you've played 100 games, but Steele's played 300. You got a bit to go. But it was great to see him play well.
Yeah, and even Craig McRae said it was one of his best games for the club yesterday.
Yes.
But he was quick to remind me that 2018 prelim final was pretty handy.
Yes, it was.
I'll say. Right on to the big Mason Cox, the Texan and Collingwood, a game clear on top. They're flying. Got the Blues this week, and look, they're the sexiest team in the competition, no question.
Yep, absolutely. Sexiest team, Skeeter. Very good. We had a couple of, that's Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter FootyCast. A couple of listener questions come in from Benjamin, of course, of the Roughie of the Week. How about sort your stuff out, Skeeter?
Thanks, Benjamin.
Dylan writes in, Max Michelini is a first...
Michael Annie.
Oh, shut up. He's a first-year player, an absolute clamp, and Mark. $3 on the Roughies, please. So Dylan wants a bit of he wants a bit more.
On
3
Max.
plus. 3. This is from Dylan. He just says Max Michelini is a good player.
Michael Annie.
Yep, and he wants $3 plus for the Roughies. He wants.
Oh, sorry. So it's nothing to do with Michael Annie. He just $3. Okay, $3 plus.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell them to send in their roughies as well. So at least then it's not just us. Like if they've got a roughie, then give us some correspondence instead of just potting me from the bleachers.
Well, that's some correspondence for you. Go above $3.
Yeah,
mate.
we'll go with $3. I'm going to go get some Coldplay tickets soon. So hurry up.
Are you going to Coldplay?
I don't know yet. Not sure.
Are you?
I might do. If I get tickets, I'll go. Would you go?
No, I've got no interest in Coldplay.
Okay.
None. Flat Slim and the... What is it? Slim Jim.
Slim Jim and the Fats. Fat Boy Slim.
Bob says, with the lack of AFL experienced players and looks like a few more older bodies will be set to... this is horribly written or copied in. Sorry, Jaden. How can the Eagles rebuild and be a destination club again? I think, unfortunately, Simo's time is up. Any chance we can get Nathan Buckley out of media back to coaching, as there's not many experienced coaches left to pick from? Who would the Eagles go after?
He's right, though. There's not many experienced coaches that are waiting in the wings. Buckley.
That's why my opinion's been pretty similar. You're not going to sack the coach because who are you going to bring in?
Yeah, I mean, it's Jared Schofield's probably the man in waiting at the club, but I think
he inherits the same list. Just so you know.
No, I understand all that. That's why. Look, the calls for Simo to go. Look, I think at the end of this year, either way, they'll sit down and have a chat. I know he's got another year to go. Is it working for you? Yep. Is it working for me? If that's the case, great. If not, then so be it. But
destination club for West Coast, I think that's actually a valid point. I think at periods of West Coast lifetime, it's been like, oh geez, I'd love to get to West Coast. Right now, if you're a free agent, you're not from Western Australia, I'm not sure that the West Coast Eagles is your first priority in getting to.
But how many free agents who aren't West Australian originally choose to come to WA anyway? There's not. It's
Jack Redden was one that I can think of, but there's not many.
Not many. It's hard. You're generally looking at Logan McDonald, a West Australian.
Jaden Hunt came here last
Jaden Hunt, yeah, but they're few and far between. That's my point. So I don't think it'll ever be a destination club. At least Geelong, as a destination club, as they have been in Victoria. If you like the lifestyle, you're still a Victorian. You get that opportunity to still stay in your home state. So it's a bit different for West Coast or Fremantle being a destination club, except if there's some guns who originally come from WA, I think they think, I wouldn't mind.
I think if you're playing better footy, it makes it more attractive to move across the country, right?
No question.
And so if you have belief in what this club does over here, then you're going to at least be in the argument. But I don't think they are right now.
No, they're not. They have to go to the draft. How to fix this? The draft is always, I think, your number one wood.
Shelter XBA X Factor of the Week. We do this every week. Oh, look, I can't go past this, man, given he was in here about a week ago. Shooter.
Yeah, no, I'm happy
Lachie
to take him
Schultz.
on board. I reckon he'd knock back a couple of Shelters Shooter when he's just relaxing end of season.
He confirmed that as well. A couple of stories he tells on the podcast. Make sure you tune into BackChat to listen to that. He kicks 4 goals. Saw a couple of chase down tackles as well. Yeah. That's what he brings to that side.
That's what the Dockers did on Saturday, by the way. That was their absolute key to turning things around. Might have been Switkowski.
Brayshaw did it on Papley.
Switkowski laid a tackle inside the D50 for Sydney, won a free kick. I think he kicked the goal. And Frederick followed. Brayshaw was there. Yeah, so Fremantle, if they continue with that, then they might give the Cats a bit of a scare this Saturday.
Slab on the way, Shooter, unless Skeeter finishes it all here. I'm not sure what sort of mood he's in, but we'll have to see. Shelter FootyCast on socials. You can follow us there. Send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. Skeeter's going to get some Coldplay tickets, apparently.
I've also got to try and go to sleep and not have dreams about you. That'd be my first priority.
That'd be my priority too. Scares the shit out of me.